Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I recently took a trip down to Starbase, which is in Boca Chica, Texas, near South Padre. This is where SpaceX is doing their experimental work on what they call the StarShip program. This is the Ship 24 sitting on top of Booster 7, and it looks like they're going to make an orbital flight attempt real soon, or suborbital flight attempt real soon. So here's some pictures of it. It is absolutely gigantic. It is a 50-meter vehicle in black sitting on top of a 70-meter booster. And so it's just absolutely monstrous. And you can see the catch tower. So on this tower, there are things called catch arms, or chopsticks they're called, and those are meant to catch the Starship as it comes back to the launch site. They've already been raising and lowering the Starship on top of the booster with these catch arms or chopsticks, and you can see the other assorted equipment around with fuel tanks. This is a methane fueled rocket, and it also holds liquid oxygen. At a total height of 120 meters tall, it is absolutely gigantic. You can see the black, what we call thermal protection system on the top ship, which is, you'll see pictures later at the rock garden, because you can get much, much closer to the rockets. But this is the one that's on the tower. They do use these very tall cherry picker devices to get up there, and you can see the workers getting up very high up in the air to work on things. You can see some variation in the color of that thermal protection system because I think they've gone through a couple of iterations on that. And the top of this tower does have some lightning mitigation system on top. Okay, so let's talk about these chopsticks. These are the catch arms. These can slide up and down the tower. They can rotate, and then they can open and close. So they have been lifting the Starship up and down with these devices already. But in theory, after this launch, it will come back after its suborbital flight or an orbital flight. It will come back down and hover with its engines while these arms gently close around it. They can push the Starship forward and backward away from the tower. They can actually rotate, because I think they have the kind of tank treads on top of them. So they can actually rotate the Starship to align it with the booster underneath. These things are probably about 30 feet tall, 25 or 30 feet tall. So they're just big, huge pieces of tubular steel. And obviously holding all the weight of that Starship, even with some fuel on board. You can see there's a little catwalk on top of it, and it'll be very interesting to see this take a launch here. So, in some of these pictures, you can see the hydraulic rams that are used to open and close these chopsticks, and they can actually rotate around the tower. They do go up and down the tower on tracks and have large cables that go to kind of a winch system at the base of the tower. Apparently the Starship does not sit directly on the flaps. There's actually a point just below the flaps that bears the weight of the ship, because they don't want to put weight directly on those flaps. Now the quick disconnect system. This is another arm at the base of the Starship that will be used to connect the oxygen, liquid methane, to tank and detank, basically fuel the vehicle and remove fuel if needed from the vehicle. But at the moment of launch, this disconnect will quickly remove itself from the vehicle and swing that arm out of the way. I did see various camera assets there is a YouTube channel called Lab Padre that shows some videos of these. There's also NASA Spaceflight. You can see they used a basketball goal to attach some of these cameras. Also sitting next to the full stack was Ship 25. So you can see it sitting on a base near the base of this tower. It has a slot for launching Starlink satellites out of it. You can see that slot there. It also has thermal protection system black tiles on basically the side that will be exposed as it comes into the atmosphere and starts heating. There's also some connection points at the top where they can use to lift it and move it around. These will have to be removed before flight. This, in theory, is the next ship after Ship 24 that might actually take a flight. Also sitting on a test stand at the base of this tower is booster number 8. In theory, this is the next booster to fly a flight. And you can see a lot of the detail here. There's kind of stiffening panels at the top. You can see the holes where the grid fins will attach. There's also this thing called Starhopper. This was one of the very first tanks that they tried to fly. They put one engine under there and flew it 150 meters into the air. Now it's basically a water tank, and it's got some antennas and some other kind of communications gear. You can also see the production site from the launch site. The rocket garden. This is really cool. You can get super close, like about 50 feet away from the base of some of these rockets. These are some of the older prototypes. You can see a lot of the thermal protection tiles that they were working on, but down under the base you can see there's still some Raptor engines. These are methane powered engines still underneath these rockets. I think they will be removing those engines and putting them into various prototypes before they launch. They are on a second prototype of the Raptor engine, so some of these might be Raptor Style 1, so they're not as useful as the Raptor number 2, the upgraded Raptor, but you can see them working on all the thermal protection tiles. There's some rockets engines underneath there, but I think these tiles are about 8-inch by 8-inch kind of hexagon, mostly hexagons. And you can see they only coat the half of the vehicle that'll basically be the windward side of the vehicle, the side that will first hit the atmosphere and be exposed to the heating. That will be where the thermal protection system is, and on the other side it's not as necessary because you just have the stainless steel, and it can withstand a little bit of the heat on the leeward side. So I just really felt compelled to share these pictures with you because this is just a really impressive rocket. It's very large, 120 meters tall. So it's basically like a skyscraper sitting next to a skyscraper. And in a couple of weeks here, hopefully we can actually see this rocket take flight and do a suborbital flight. It'll be very fun to watch. I had to mention this. Somebody had made this painting and left it in the sand dunes pointing towards the rocket. It says "Live in our tomorrow today," and it's a bunch of starships, and it says Starbase, Boca Chica, Texas. I thought it was really cool. This is one of the partially constructed bits of the booster, I believe, and you can see the metal pins that are the mount points for the thermal protection system. There is a beautiful little small beach nearby, and you can see that there's quite a bit of wildlife here hanging out near the beach, not really disturbed by the activities of SpaceX. I'm sure they are doing welding and sometimes firing off these engines, but they're obviously not creating a big hazard to the ecosystem here. And the Tesla did get to drive on the beach for the very first time. That was a lot of fun too. And this guy obviously had it figured out. He has a pretty legit little beach camping setup here. Yeah, so I just wanted to share all these pictures from Boca Chica. It was really kind of a fun little trip, and this rocket is just gigantic. If you get a chance to go see it, it's really impressive to see up close. You can go to the little rocket garden there at the production site and really get up close and personal with those rockets. It's just very impressive stuff. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.